my fellow comic book collectors. It's Alan, the Comic Collector Geek, and this is the Sunday video where I look at the hottest Golden Age comics for the week. And this is a very special week. It's the signature auction going on at Heritage Auction. Big, big, big auction. So I'm going to show some pretty big books, but I'm going to show some interesting ones that maybe you haven't seen before as well. So pretty great list. I think it's a fun list. Let's get it right into it. Number 10 on the list is a book that you probably haven't seen before, but it's Rocket Man Comics Volume 2, Number 1. This is from Rucker Publishing. It's like a Canadian publisher. It's not really certain when this book was published, but they believe it was published in 1945. It kind of is a reprint cover of a Gus Ricka cover from Punch 9. But it's a great cover by Gus Ricka. It's one where the artist is drawing crime comic and the characters are basically killing him. He's stabbed, he's shot, he's clubbed, and he is hung or hanged, I should say. Yeah, this was a 5.5 that sold, and it sold for $5,520. Now, this book, as I said, you just don't see it very often. This is the only sale. This is the only sale that is recorded in any grade. There's 4 on the census, but that's it. So nobody knows if this was a good sale or a bad sale. Based on the rarity, probably it could have gone for even more, but I think when people are not certain about, that sales history, it could go for whatever, right? So I'd say it's a reasonable sale. Number 9 on the list is Keen Detective Funnies, number 18. This is from Centaur Publications, 1940. This is a Ben Thompson cover, and it features bondage, guys like strapped to the wall, and this weird eye, floating eye, and they're all shooting at the eye. But so it's injury to eye as well. But it's really interesting publisher. Centaur Comics are sort of like where a lot of the elite collectors kind of gravitate to, because Centaur publications are really incredibly rare. And this one was a big sale. It was an 8.5 that sold, and it sold for $8,400. It was actually from the Lester Schlick cover collection, I should say. And the previous record for this book was set back in May of 2020 for $3,960. So it's gone up about twice from its prior record. There's 23 of these on the census, and 21 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 8 on the list is Pep Comics number 34. This is from MLJ, 1942. It's a Bob Fujicani cover, and it's a classic bondage one, where you get this kind of weird vampire-like Nazi with a hypodermic needle about to inject a woman that's strapped to a table. Just a great classic cover. This was a 2.5 that sold, and it sold for $9,300. This is way down, actually. This one didn't perform that well. The prior record for this book was set back in June of 2024 for $14,400. And the last sale, which was only a few months after that, it actually had gone down a bit. It went down to $13,200. So overall, this book hasn't been performing that well. Is down from those records set last year. And only 2 months ago for the last sale, so didn't do that well. There's 41 of these on the census, and 37 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 7 on the list is Punch Comics number 12. This is from Harry Chesler, 1945. It's another Gus Ricka cover, and it's a classic skull cover. It's probably one of the most desired skull covers of all. Um, this one is often associated with being a pre-code horror comic. It is not a pre-code horror comic, and it just happens to be a crime cover that has that pre-code horror feel vibe to it. This is many years before the first pre-code horror titles. Um, so yes, this was a 0.5 that sold. Interesting thing is it's a 0.5 with just a missing back cover. That's why it's a 0.5. And it sold for $10,200. Now, this is the first time this book has sold, and there's no prior records for this one in this grade. Now, there was a 1.0. This book doesn't sell that often. There was a 1.0 that sold back in 2007 for $310. So let's go back in time and you can pick up a cheap copy. Now, the more recent sales, I guess, there was a 0.5 restored copy that sold for $6,900 in 2021. But that book, not only was it restored, it was missing pages 1 through 27. So basically half the book or most of the book was missing. And it still sold for $6,900. So this one is a stronger sale than that. There was also a 1.5 that sold in 2022, September 2022, for $14,400. So this is kind of in line with what you would expect a 0.5 to sell for. There's a lot of price compression in those lower grades because people just want to get into the book, and this is the entry level at $10,000 now. So a really big book, really big sale. Very cool. It was there's 41 of these on the census, and 35 are Universal Blue Labels. Number 6 on the list is another cool book for pre-code horror. This is Venus number 19. This is from Atlas Comics 1952. It's a Bill Everett cover. He also did some of the stories as well inside. It's also the last issue of the Venus series, which actually started out as a Good Girl title. It later became pre-code horror, but this was the last issue of it. This was a 4.5 that sold, and it sold for $10,500. The previous record for this book was set back in November of 2013 for $2,868. So it's up almost 3 times, a little bit more than 3 times from that prior record. However, this book is actually down. And the reason I say that is there was a 4.0 that just sold recently back in November of 2022 for $16,800. So you would have expected this one to sell for maybe about $18,000, maybe $19,000. So this was a bit down from those prior records. Now, this book actually was kind of hot even during COVID. There was a few pre-code horror comics that kind of went like a little bit viral or popular during COVID era. And so this one kind of had that spike in that era. So it seems to have kind of corrected down on this one. But still a strong sale. New record. There's 73 of these on the census, and 69 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 5 on the list is Air Ace, Volume 2, Number 2. This is from Street and Smith, 1944. It is an interesting cover because it features probably the most racially insensitive picture of a Japanese guy on the cover. It's just like this, like big teethed Japanese soldier, and he's about to get a noose wrapped around his neck. It's just a classic war propaganda cover. And this one was actually used. There was a Disney creator. Stephen was telling me the story, so I'm hopefully going to try to repeat it correctly. There was a Japanese illustrator for Disney who wanted to kind of increase morale and increase the war effort. And they created this character to basically incentivize the troops. Like the way it would work is you'd have this Japanese character, and it would say, you know, oh, be lazy, don't work hard, and you know, because it'll help the Japanese war effort. So it's kind of reverse psychology, and was designed to basically encourage soldiers to work hard so that they don't help the Japanese. Very interesting character and piece of history. This was actually a very interesting copy that sold. It was a 9.6 green label that sold for $21,600. It's actually part of the Mile High pedigree. And I hate this kind of green label, actually, because this is a bogus green label. So this is one of those books that was actually an error printing. It was printed without staples, which did happen sometimes in the Golden Age. And they gave it a green label because it's missing the staples. Well, it was printed that way. So it's manufactured without staples, which actually makes it more rare. So this is one of those erroneous green labels where you might see it and think, oh, it should be a cheaper book. It's missing something. Well, it's missing the staples that it never had. So something to be aware of. Now, this is the only sale for this book in this high grade. It is the highest grade on the census. But there was a 7.5 that sold for $9,000 back in September of 2024. So this is about a little bit more than double what the 7.5 sold for, but you would expect that being the highest grade on the census. Actually, I would have expected even higher, but I think a lot of people got deceived by that green label and actually undervalued it. So somebody got a good price on a very cool book. There are 24 of these on the census, and 22 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 4 on the list is Captain Marvel Adventures #1. This is from Fawcett, 1941. It's a C.C. Beck cover. And actually, I learned something new about this one. So this one is the first ongoing series, named after the lead character, which is Captain Marvel. But this actually features a very interesting little factoid about it. Is it features Jack Kirby art. And it's only Captain Marvel Adventures that does feature Jack Kirby art. I guess he had done this during a night shift. He was actually working on Captain America at the time, and he did this kind of in, as a little side hustle. And he did some extra art for Captain Marvel Adventures #1. It's actually not labeled #1. It's actually I'm not sure if they were planning to do it as a one shot or what the deal was, but it was actually never labeled as #1, which is another little factoid. This was a 5.0 that sold, and a 5.0 is actually the highest grade for this book, and it sold for $60,000. Now, the prior record for this book was set back in 2016 for $38,240. So this book had a pretty strong sale, new record for it. There are 69 of these on the census, and 38 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 3 on the list is Batman #1. This is from DC Comics, 1940. It's a Bob Kane and Jerry Robinson cover. It features the first appearance of the Joker and the Cat. And it is ranked number 5 on Overstreet's hottest or top Golden Age comics, top 100. So it's number 5 on that list. This was a sale for a 7.0, really high grade copy, and it sold for $630,000. Massive sale. However, this is actually down. The previous record for this book was set back in April of 2023 for $660. So it's slightly down from that prior record. But still a great book. It's still a massive sale. There are 312 of these on the census, and 148 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 2 on the list is All-Star Comics #8. This is from DC Comics, or All American Comics, actually, from 1941. It is a E.B. Hibbard cover, and it is the first appearance of Wonder Woman. Also, Starman and Midnight joined the JSA. It also has Green Lantern as an honorary member of the JSA in this book. And it's ranked number 13 on that Overstreet Top 100 list. So this was a really big sale. It was a 9.4 that sold. It's really high grade for this book, highest on the census. And it sold for $1.5 million. Sounds high, but it's actually down. The previous record for this book was set back in June of 2022 for $1.62 million. So it's down about 100,000, about 10% from the prior record. And it was the same exact book. This was the same exact one that sold back then, but just didn't perform so well. Not a good investment if you bought this back in 2022. Sadly, it's gone down $100,000, so pretty big loss. There are 213 of these on the census, and 152 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number one on the list is one that we always have. Seems like this one's always number one on the list if it's like these big sales, and it's Superman number one. This is from DC Comics 1939. It is a Joe Shuster cover, and it is the first self-titled series for a superhero in comics. So this is the first time you get a title that is, named after the character, and a book that's totally devoted to that character. It also has the origin of Superman in it as well. So this was a 7.0 that sold, and it sold for $2,340,000, so $2.34 million. This one is also down. This Superman 1, every time I seem to report on it, it's always going down. I'm not sure why. This is right in line with that, because the prior record for this book was set back in December of 2021. So almost 3 years ago, 3 and a bit years ago. And it was $2.6 million at the time. Actually, $2,604,750 if you want to be precise. But we'll just say 2.6 million. It was a massive sale. And so that's down like about 10% from that prior record, almost 15%. Just a big loss. I'm not sure why this book keeps on dropping every time I have it on my list. I hope I'm not cursing it. It's a great book, but it has dropped. There are 186 of these on the census, and 78 of them are Universal Blue Labels. So that's it. This was the really massive auction for Heritage. They do this every year, and this was so there was some pretty cool stuff. Did you catch this auction? If so, tell me in the comments below if you picked anything up. I picked up 2 books personally from it, so I was quite excited. Not any of these on the list though. So again, hope you enjoyed the video. Bye for now.